allowed to access water from Metropolitan Water District, which was available because of the rains. They've had it in storage. They want it used. And so we are not using our wells, and we are not using Canyon Lake. And yet, almost every day I see somebody who says, gee, the water's going down. When is the water district going to stop processing water? Well, there's such a thing called evaporation. The lake evaporates approximately 5 feet every year, and it continues to evaporate. So we're not processing water. The next thing is the alum treatments took place last week, and I haven't been to the TMDL meeting to get the complete report, but it looked like everything went really, really well, as all of our fall treatments have done. I want to invite any members who'd like to come to my coffee at the sports stop at 10 o'clock, the last Tuesday of the month from 10 to around 11. We usually have 9 or 10 people show up, and everybody has new questions, and I'm fine with old questions as well. So anything that the board wants to ask. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nancy. Randy?
Well, board, good evening. After Las Vegas, I don't think anything seems very important, but I am going to cover one thing very quickly. There's probably the thing that citizens are most interested tomorrow night is going to be the cannabis, now they call it. We're not allowed to call it marijuana. I don't know why. That's the way it is. And there's two sides to it. There's a commercial side and then the medical side. The medical is pretty straightforward. The voters voted for that years ago. On the commercial side, it has to do with the manufacturing, the distribution, the testing, and the retail and the recreational, and that's where the big decision tomorrow night's going to be. And I think if the citizens are in attendance or on television, just listen to the initial comments from the city council members. I'm only one person, by the way. We're no different, or Mayor Pro Tem, but I think you'll have a pretty good feeling what the way the vote's going to go. So I really appreciate people listen to that and know that how we're going to support the city of Canyon Lake. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. So that's tomorrow night? So 6:30 tomorrow night, if anybody's interested in attending the city council meeting, they will be discussing probably whether they're going to allow or disallow the sale of, I don't know what you call it, cannabis, non-medical marijuana within the city limits. Okay. Next we have a presentation on the new main gate logo. Basically what's happened here is that we're about to be 50 years old, and our logo is pretty tired and pretty dated, and our GM and staff have recognized that we probably need to modernize, and they thought it tied in well with the new main gate project to have a new Canyon Lake logo to go with it. As far as the main gate goes, some of the comments we received is that they still wanted to say a private community, which we will be doing, so it won't say Canyon Lake Property Owners Association. It will say on the main gate Canyon Lake, a private community. But basically the staff and GM, especially Eric, Tiffany, was there others, Eric, that I'm not thinking of, have worked hard on creating this new logo and image for Canyon Lake, trying to kind of do some branding for us. They're going to make it in a way that you can have sub-branding on it as well, so you can have the Canyon Lake logo and image and also say underneath Canyon Lake Country Club or underneath, Canyon Lake Lodge. If you're a club or something like that, you could have the same logo and whatnot, and underneath you could say Canyon Lake Car Club or whatever club it is that you're affiliated with. So with that, I think Eric's got the presentation up. Go ahead, Eric, and please add anything that I'm forgetting.
I think you pretty much covered it. I think, Lynn, if you just go to the next one. The main idea was to get some kind of cohesive signage, branding to apply to the main gate project rather than put a 50-year-old symbol on a brand new pair of monument signs. And so what you'll see on the sign, if you go to the next one. Yeah, you can go to the next one. It's not really all that clear, but hello. Yeah, the other way. So anyway, with two brand new entry signs, we really needed to decide what are we going to put on there, what is it going to look like, and next year is our 50th year, and so it seemed for many reasons to be an opportune time to try to upgrade our brand and kind of come up with a new logo, and there you have it. You can go to the next one. I don't know if that's all of them. The lighthouse is, part of our history, been there since '68. Same time as the lodge, I think. Somebody probably knows different, correct me if I'm wrong, but right about the same time the original lodge was built, and it's in pretty poor shape right now, but I want you to know that not just because we're basing the logo on this, but because it needs it. We're also going to be renovating that and returning it to its proper state of repair. And this will apply, there'll be a version at the Lighthouse Restaurant, slightly changed from what it is now so that it ties to the whole brand. And same thing at the Country Club. And that's it.
All right, so the board's already approved this logo. We just kind of wanted to show it to you so you could see what it looks like. I think we're all happy with it. Hopefully you're all happy with it. I think it looks a lot more new and modern. Like I said, staff has worked for the last several months on putting all this together and getting the designs and getting them approved. And I think we even had to pay some kind of award. There was like a contest for the best logo, and we picked the best one and awarded a prize of like $500 or something to get it. So there was a lot of background work that went into it, and we're happy with it. I hope you are too. Next we have the consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull anything from the consent agenda? John Stesner, is he here? Oh, John, did you want to pull that same one item from the consent agenda? Or are you just asking to speak about it? Well, we're not really there yet. I'm just asking you the question. You want to speak? Okay.
You would need a board member to pull it.
For him to be able to talk about it?
Yes.
All right, so does anyone want to make a motion to pull?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we pull item G, approval of 30-day reading rule, revision GR.4.2H.2 garage sale permits.
I'll second.
It doesn't need a second,
Oh,
and
okay.
any board member can pull it. Yeah.
All right, so we'll pull that from the consent agenda. Anything else needs to be pulled? So I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as written, except for item G.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
So for item G, this was the one we talked about last month as far as some issues with placement of garage sale signs in common areas and whatnot. So John, go ahead and come up now. You can speak about this.
John Stelzner, 3778 lot 009. I spoke about this last month because I had a concern for the neighbors that live near Vacation and Canyon Lake Drive North and Canyon Lake Drive South in Continental. Last month, the suggestion was, or the rule, that the way they wanted to change it was they wanted to remove the requirement not to have signs in the neighbors' properties at those locations. The current one that I read right now in the agenda states that to keep those two things in place, but to remove or to make a rule that you cannot have signs in the medium on Canyon Lake Drive South. Actually, that's just completely opposite of what I mentioned last month, and I would hope that the board would look at the neighbors that have to put up with the signs in their yards that live near these two intersections. And I think it is a good idea to have the signs out in the median. They're not in anybody's property, and they are a way of telling people that live near Continental that that there is a garage sale, down Continental or nearby. So that's the only thing I wanted to do. It's just a little bit differently written this month. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, John. Tom, feel free to comment on this. I know it's your Rules Committee where you talked about it, but from what I remember from last month, they thought that by putting we tend to get a whole big collection of garage sale signs in that median right outside Continental, and they thought it might be slowing down traffic and causing a hazard to navigation, basically, because people are slowing down trying to read the signs, and if someone behind them isn't expecting them to slow down, they're thinking there could be an accident there, and we probably shouldn't have all those garage sales in signs in a common area like that. Was there something else that they talked about that you want to talk about, Tom?
Yeah, they basically, like John was saying, I think the intersection, especially really the one that was at Continental, you had both homeowners, property owners on one corner or two corners, and then you had a median where there was no property. When we talk about Vacation and Canyon North, it was all property owners. So the discussion was centered around the idea that it seemed more imposing to put signs in people's actual yards as opposed to the median. So that was the decision, to say it can't be put in the yard unless the permission of the owner is granted, but the median's okay.
What's written here? I don't think. Garage sale signs cannot be posted in the median where Canyon Lake Drive South intersects Continental.
That's just at one particular intersection because of the danger.
Right.
Corey, am I remembering correctly? I think it was the median was supposed to be okay, but the property owners' corners were not okay.
You are correct. What we talked about was adding that language to the actual garage sale permit, more as just as a courtesy to owners, to each other, to say, beware, ask for permission before you place signs on another person's property. So we were going to add that to the actual
So if I'm reading this correctly, that wording's going to be on the permit, that they need to get permission from people, not just stick signs in their yard, because some people are on corners where they get 20 signs stuck in their yard every week, probably without permission. But this particular rule is going to say it's not legal to place them in the center median right there at Continental and Canyon Lake Drive.
Correct.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve item G, rule revision, GR 4.2 for garage sale permits as written.
Second.
Any further discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Item H, was item H part of the consent agenda as well, Harmony?
Yes.
Okay. All right, board action items for committee member appointments, annual appointment roster. Lynn, do you want to speak about this?
Sure. Good evening. So it's that time of year where we're renewing all the annual appointments of committee members. This is just the members that are currently on the committee that have been recommended for reappointment. So attached in the book is the recommended list of members that are to be appointed to the committee for this next year.
All right, and I should also add that some of the things that are written in here are moving new chairman into positions as well. There's one that moves a secretary into position. Board members, if there's changes in this roster that we normally cover separately that we're not covering tonight, it might be a good idea to call your committee chairman and let them know that, the chairman was approved or the secretary was approved, because there are some items like that in there as well.
Yes, so we'll send out a notification letter to all the committee members, letting them know what the result was. And then in addition, there's some new appointments for the agenda tonight that we were doing separately, because this was just the annual roster.
Right. All right,
Thank
so
you.
I'll make a motion that we approve item 6.1, the annual reappointment of the committee members as listed.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a discussion. On the appeals committee, when we went out to do this, we were basically we were supposed to go to the chairman and get their feedback on the different members that wanted to be removed or not wanted removed. And when I talked to the chairman of this committee, he said he wasn't contacted, and yet here we have recommendations where I thought the directions to all of us was to go out and get their recommendations. I was wondering why we didn't go to the chairman for recommendations. You got the recommendation? So he made that statement that these two were.
No, he didn't. I did.
So you went to him for a recommendation? Okay, that's not the impression I got from him.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Yeah, nay.
4 in favor, 1 against, motion carried.
All right, Steve, we have approval committee appointment for Recreation Committee. Did you want to speak on that? Probably not. I have your name down here. So it says that the committee is recommending the board reinstate Deborah Harwick. Applications that were received included Jude Donahue, Rita Robles, and Larry Hawkins. Does anyone want to make a motion regarding the appointment for the Recreation Committee?
Make a motion that we reinstate Deborah as a member, standing member on the committee, and also appoint Jude Donahue as a...
That's a separate one, I think.
Oh, that's separate line, okay. I'll stop there.
I second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Next, we have approval for committee appointment for Recreation, the second one. This one, the committee recommends the board appoint Jude Donahue. Applications received included Jude Donahue, Rita Robles, and Jerry Hawkins. Can I have a motion for the second Recreation appointment?
I make a motion we appoint Jude Donahue to the Recreation Committee.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Next, we have item 6.4, approval for committee appointment for the Estates Committee. The committee is recommending the board appoint Charles Hawley. No other applications were turned in. So I'll make a motion that we approve item 6.4 and appoint Charles Hawley to the Estates Committee.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
6.5 is titled kind of incorrectly, I think, but basically what they're trying to do is to appoint 2 new members for the Security Advisory Committee. The committee has recommended William Van Vliet, spelled with a V, as a member, and Eddie Valdez as an alternate. So I'll make a motion that we approve William Van Vliet as the new security member and Eddie Valdez as the new Security Committee alternate.
I second.
What's the question?
So one of you can only second for the record for harmony. Okay, so Mike seconding.
Sorry.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Next, we have approval of committee appointments for the Dredge Committee. We have a committee that's being formed, and it says they're going to have up to 7 members. The applications received only amount to 5 members. This seems a little bit premature to me, but does somebody want to make a motion regarding appointing people to the new Dredge Committee?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve as soon as I get to the list. What page is the list?
6.6 on page 7, or I'm sorry, page 2.
Oh, that's not the list. The list is...
It's page 95 of your book, sir.
114.
The members are listed on the agenda.
Okay, it's listed on page 2. Usually there's a separate page. Okay. Okay, consent agenda. We're getting there. 1 second, we're getting there. All right, here we are. I recommend for appointment to the Dredge Committee, Steve Liebring, Chris Poland, Jack Wamsley, Dwight Johnson, and Charles Bryant.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Next, we have a request to approve or reject co-ed league game fees, waiving the co-ed league, softball league game fees. Carrie Pratt, are you going to speak on this for us? Yeah, I think you do on this one.
The Co-ed Softball League has applied to have their fees waived for now and the foreseeable future. Do you have any questions? Currently, the fees are $30 per game for no lights.
And the number of games
They play about 5 per Sunday, and I'm not quite sure how long. I'd say about 8 to 12 weeks is a season. Yes,
And are,
twice a year.
are any of these games played at night where you're lighting the stadium?
Only on their playoffs, and that's usually twice a year on one day.
And what are the fees used to cover? Is it for the mowing of the grass, prepping of the fields, chalk lines, lighting? I mean, I assume there's a fee
it's
because there's a cost
everything-
involved.
It's everything that you mentioned, except for chalking the fields. We have decided that Brightview does not know how to chalk fields in a professional manner, and so we do not have them do that anymore. So it's just fields, grass, water. Ops does take care of all the trash and the maintenance of those facilities, the bathrooms and that.
The total expenses in the budget for 2017-18 for Galt Field is $98,053. The budgeted fees coming in around $13,000. So the subsidy, the fees cover 12 to 13% of the overall cost of the facility.
Being a past player of co-ed softball, it's Sunday mornings and runs most of the day. I think a few different issues. We got the rules basically describe that league play has fees, and Terry's noted what the fees are, and men's softball that plays at nighttime pays fees, and they pay more because they pay nighttime fees with lights. Little League pays fees, so we'd be setting kind of an interesting precedent to take it away from one, because if we do that, then I think the rest of them would start showing up saying that they don't want to pay fees either. But that being said, it's also, we have Brightview is the ones who I think maintain the fields, and they're there Monday through Friday. So by Sunday morning, when the softball group does show up, not going to say that the fields are in bad condition, but they're definitely not in newly manicured condition. So they do spend a little bit more time probably prepping the fields for themselves as opposed to having something ready to go.
Did you turn in a
Yes. there's
request?
a form.
Chuck Moreno? I think he's here to speak for the league, sir.
I don't have one for Brian. Is that who you're saying it is? Oh, here it is, yeah. Yeah, come on up. Ryan Parent, track 3869, lot 27.
Do you need me to re-announce that, or is that okay? Yeah, that's what we're kind of going after, is to have the fees waived. You guys had talked about what the fees cover. The field is maintained by the community whether we play on it or not. It's a park. If we don't play on it, it's watered, it's mowed. And we do maintain the fields ourselves. We buy the bases, we chalk the fields, we drag the fields. None of that's done for us. If we were playing in any park or any, municipality, for the league fee that we pay, this community would take our scores, keep track of our games, our scheduling, take care of scheduling the umpires. We choose to bring in umpires so we don't fight with each other. So it's easier, but we could easily umpire the games ourselves and make it free. The tennis courts don't charge to be used. All we're doing is reserving an hour per game and trying to enjoy our community. I don't see where the fees really do anything, or what we're doing any different than what people who play tennis, play basketball. There's people that organize games all the time on the basketball courts. There's the tennis club has organized sanctioned events on our courts, and they don't pay fees. They don't even pay light fees. You turn the switches, the lights come on. That's part of our dues. I don't see why Galt Field is any different for us. It's a resident league. We do have friends that are outside of the community that come and enjoy it with us, but so does tennis, so does the basketball court, so does, it's not, this isn't run like a local municipality would be run. We don't, like Kerry said, the fields would be chalked for us, drug for us, the umpires would be scheduled, you guys would maintain our schedule, there'd be a website we could go to see where our standings are, what times we're playing. None of that's done. We do that ourselves. So we're just requesting that we get to enjoy the fields without outlaying money to do so on a Sunday afternoon.
Thank you.
Yep. Do you guys have any questions for us and that we could answer?
I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion, comments from the board? Anybody want to make a motion?
I think we have one additional member comment on this item. Okay.
So I think what we're worried about here, and Tom already kind of touched on, is that we're setting a precedent for everyone that has to pay a fee for anything to come up and say, hey, we don't want to pay fees either. I think that's maybe the worry with eliminating this fee. I do have some friends that have kids that play soccer and things like that, and I know that they pay upwards of $150 per game for their kids to play soccer. I know I have one friend that pays over $2,000 a year for his kid to play soccer, and that covers things like the field and the umpires and the setting up of the field, taking down the field, maintaining the field. So $30 per game actually sounds fairly reasonable, but maybe it's possible and that the fee schedule could be looked at, and maybe a reduction in the fees or something like that could be done. I'm not sure. That's something you could discuss with staff after, but I'm going to go ahead and make the motion that where am I here, Tom? I can't see with the lighting. 6-7, that we reject the co-ed league game fee waiver.
I second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
My only discussion is there's no perfect way to put fees out for every amenity out there. There's just no perfect way. I've looked at it, and the finance committee has looked at it and tried to be fair as possible and try to be not too difficult to pay the fees. And in the end, we just have to do the best we can with the tools we're given, and that we try to be fair. And like I said.
So hold on, hold on, please. You can, if you want to comment, you have to fill out the comment card to come up. You filled one out, Chuck. Do you want to come to the mic and comment?
Chuck Marino, 3846-330. Do you charge tennis?
Well, tennis is not grass, so there's not much wear and tear there.
There's no maintenance. Resurfacing the courts?
How often?
It's expensive, right? Pickleball? Do you charge pickleball? I mean, we're just playing softball. The fields have been bought and paid for.
Do we give away the golf course?
You have to pay to play golf anywhere. Wow. So you're going to discriminate against one group? What other people do pay? Tennis doesn't pay.
Little League is a separate deal. Little League has teams of non-resident children. This is a resident league. So I'm not asking you that this is a completely separate issue. This is a resident event, just like the tennis courts. These facilities that we're talking about, nobody pays except us. That's what I'm talking about. Little League is a separate issue. Little League's a nonprofit organization that runs leagues all over this country. We're a group of residents getting together on a Sunday morning, utilizing a park that, whether we were there or not, would be watered and mowed. If we stopped using it tomorrow, would you stop watering the grass on those fields? Would you stop mowing the grass on those fields? I mean, I'm asking you the question. It's a real question.
Yeah. If the Little League fields were maintained and no one was ever using them, yeah, we'd probably stop watering and mowing and change it into something else that would be used.
Because I've lived here for 12 years, and this league hasn't existed for 12 years, and those fields were maintained prior to that. And the only thing they were used by was Little League. Very rarely. That upper field is very rarely used. So when you say that, I'm sorry, but I find that hard to believe. That area was donated to be a softball field. And when you read the rules in the deal, we don't have to reserve the fields. We don't have to pay. We could get together as a group of people and go use those fields. We lose the ability to reserve it was what would happen, but nobody comes up there on a Sunday anyways. But according to the rules, we don't have to pay a reservation fee. We could run games as long as they're done on a short time period basis. It's in the rules, and we wouldn't have to pay a per fee game fee. The only thing we're doing is organizing it and saying we obviously want to reserve it so that these people can come play, expect to get a game in on a Sunday. But to compare us to the golf course, we're not golf. This isn't golf. This isn't soccer fields. We're no different than the tennis club or anything like that. I mean, of course tennis needs to be maintained. The lights on the tennis court cost way more than what we use. We're not even using lights. We're just playing on the dirt and on the grass. And we maintain it.
Okay, thank you.
So, you guys opened it up for discussion. It's what I wanted to, I really came here to talk to you. You're the ones who make the decision. And that's when we were talking to Carrie. We wanted to have a discussion as to why are we having to pay fees when tennis doesn't? When no other facility charges a fee to use? My understanding is if I want to use the jump lagoon, I pay a deposit for the key, I use it, and then when I turn the key back in, I get my deposit back. So there's no fee for using that. But I'm assuming it costs us money to maintain that section of the lake. So that's all we're saying is of course the field has some cost associated with it because it exists as a field. The only thing we're doing is using it as a group of residents in this community and then being charged like.
I got you.
So, okay.
Please take a trip over there to Golf Field and just see the condition it's in. Okay? It's not maintained very well. Thank you.
All right. Len, can you give us some history on this?
Sure.
I heard that there's a night league that plays, there's Little League that plays, there's these guys that play.
Sir.
How long have we had fees? Is this new?
Well, we've had fees since I've been at the POA a couple years. So in the rule book, under reservations, it talks about availability. Reservations being made through the activities department. And then it talks about the availability. Any reservations made with activities will be accepted on a first-come, first-served basis. Short-term purposes is defined as parties wishing to reserve the field for a short-term purpose, 1 day or less, may use the field for as long as there is no league event scheduled at that time. So we've deemed short-term as if you're using it for 1 day or less, like a thing. If it's a league where they're scheduling multiple games, they're scheduling plays, scheduling regular practices, that's considered long-term scheduling. In prior years, when I first started with the POA, leagues had to send their schedules to the board for approval. At a certain point, the board turned that over to the activities department. Activities department managed the schedules. They paid the league fees. We do allow practices to use the fields for free, but we charge the game fee. In this particular case, this league only plays on Sundays. So the question has come up, same as with men's. Yes, men's on Wednesday nights. So, yes, I think it would affect all 4 leagues. I understand your comment. Oh, right. So I think it would affect all 4 leagues, because if we gave it to one, all 4 leagues would request a fee reduction or waiver, I'm sure, because it's not a reservation fee for services, it's a use fee of the field, regardless of service being provided. People kind of confuse that. We do charge additional for the lights because there's a fee associated with that, but it's for long-term reservation, exclusive use of the field for a scheduled period of time. It has nothing to do with any service that we provide. And so that's just how it's been defined in the rules. If the board wanted to make a decision to make a waiver reduction, the board can make the decision, but then also the rules would need to be updated at some point to decide if we're going to determine short-term reservation, what game fees would consist of, long-term use of the fields, and if the fee is for service or if the fee is for just having use of the field. Just like when you rent a room. You rent a room, you pay a fee to rent a room. Any services we provide, that's additional cost. Has nothing to do with, but I understand what they're saying as far as they're not getting the additional services that they felt they should get. We're not a municipality. We don't provide any additional service for them. We just schedule the field and put it on the calendar, and that's really all that Activities is providing for them. We do not coordinate umpires. We do not coordinate league scheduling, any of that. They work that out amongst themselves. They submit all their information to the association. We just schedule it and notify operations and notify community patrol. And that's essentially what that's for. Yes, all the leagues do that.
Guys,
we do not provide.
You speak when you had your 3 minutes. You cannot just speak from the audience like that, please.
So the
your time
leagues have donated items. Little League has donated a tremendous amount to Galtfield over the years. The leagues have donated, I believe, items, but we don't keep track of that. That's kind of a sanctioned club function as far as what they're donating. But Galtfield has, for the most part, been ran by Little League. Other leagues have joined over the years and donated, but a lot of that has come from it. So it's, again, the POA, we kind of always took the position when I was in Activities, we don't get involved in the league's business to that point, because once we start getting involved, now we're involved in their business. We're not telling you how to run your league, how to schedule your games, who should be on your team and not be on your team. We've said submit that information to the POA, and that was why they stopped having it go to the board, because the POA was kind of in the league's business, we'll say too much. And so we were saying, you guys work it out. If you can't work it out, then it comes to the POA. And now that they've requested the fee waiver, because they've requested this before, I think a different league, that's why it came back to the board. So, any additional questions? No.
Would the board be interested in, tabling this for discussion? Talk about it. Maybe we can talk about the fee schedule.
So the fee
what
schedule,
it is,
right.
what it could be at a later time, and bring us back next month.
We're getting ready to start the budget for next year.
Get some more background, yeah. That's what it sounds like maybe we need. Maybe we can let these gentlemen kind of give us some of the background, let staff give us some background, talk about the fee schedule and how was that, how much, maybe there's some changes to the fee schedule that could be done to make it more fair.
Fee's been pretty close, within $5-10 for many, many years. It has not changed drastically. And we did break out the night game fee. Yes, sir. Sure. Okay.
You there's a first and second, so if you want to make a subsidiary motion to table it, that's of the appropriate, and get a second.
There's my motion. Can I just withdraw my motion, or do I have to make a subsidiary?
You can withdraw your motion.
So I'll withdraw my motion, and I'll make a motion that we table this, have staff put it on exec session agenda for 2 weeks from today, so we can discuss it a little bit further, get some information from staff and from our members, and then bring it back in the next open session in November.
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
All right, item 6.8, approval for the annual 16-17 budget surplus. Basically, the board has to decide what to do with the surplus funds that were left over from last year's budget. On page 139 of your books, folks, we basically have three options. The amount of money that was left over was $580,000, $580,566. So obviously we did very well with our budget process in the past year, so now we have to decide what happens with this money. Basically, the board has three options for what they can do with additional funds. As you know, we're a nonprofit agency, which means we're a sort of a nonprofit agency. I think there might be a specific filing name, but basically we're a nonprofit, to where we're not allowed to make any money or have any excesses. So something has to be done with the money. Option one, you can transfer the excess operating funds to the reserve funds. Option two, you can issue excess operating funds as a refund to each member. Or option three, you can apply operating funds to the following year's assessments to reduce the assessments in the following year. So those are our three options. Does anybody, well, we can have more discussion after the motion. I'll make the motion that we apply the operating funds to the following year's assessments so that we can save some money for the members.
We have a small correction to this action item. Susan isn't here. Susan referred to some past action items when she prepared this. When I walked in tonight, Howard pointed out to me that item 3, which is an option that says apply operating funds to the following year's assessments. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we would have needed to make an election to use Rule 70-604.
Yes, that's correct. You need to pass that in front of an annual meeting. You have to have a vote on that. I mean, you could do this, but you might run into taxation. I'm not an accountant, but traditionally, if you want to do that option, you need to, at the annual meeting, have the membership vote to approve it for that revenue ruling. That's been my understanding.
Yeah, Teresa kind of went over this with us last night, and she said that this is an option for us, that sometimes people put it on their ballots to make it an automatic process, which would remove the taxation problem.
Right.
We could still do this. It would just be taxed.
Yes, you'd be taxed. I don't know how much.
Yeah.
It'd be a rather hefty tax, to be honest.
It could be up to 30%.
So last night's discussion, we were talking about this, and I think there was an implication that there were taxable issues related to any of these options that we probably are not aware of at this point in time. So I'm going to make a subsidiary motion that we just table this for now until we can get some advice from our accounting expert and make a decision once we have that information.
I second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm in favor, motion carried.
All right, which brings us to member comments on non-agenda and non-personal issues. As a reminder for member comments, this is your opportunity to make comments or statements that you'd like the board to hear. It's not a Q&A with the board. If you have questions that you want to ask board members, please stay after the meeting. We're happy to stay and answer your questions, but this is just for you to make comments. There's no personal attacks. Please try to be courteous. And the first person that we have is Alyssa. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to pronounce your last name, so I won't try. Track 3831, lot 188.
Good evening. This is my first board meeting as a relatively new resident. And so thank you, very fascinating. So I was told by some people here in Canyon Lake that if I come to the board meeting and I speak, I may be retaliated against and be on the radar, but I'm looking around and I'm thinking, I came from New York, I'm going to throw caution to the wind. It's 3,000 miles away. So I came to you today to discuss issues with the gate, which are, I believe, have been heard before, and they continue. I understand the position of the guard is very difficult. It's hot, it's uncomfortable, it's long hours. However, we do have rules and we have regulations and they're not being followed. We have numerous statements on that Facebook page for Canyon Lake regarding not scanning passes. I witnessed that twice. We asked the guard why they didn't scan the pass. One guard told us, and I spoke with Corey, right? One guard told us, oh, he comes in all the time. I know him. Okay, so maybe I decided he shouldn't come anymore. If you're not looking in, scanning the pass, and know that it's a valid pass, you're putting me at risk. After one of the items was posted, Phil, you noted that you observed the same thing. I did note that, thank you. But we have to enforce our own rules. And so while I do understand we're in the middle of an RFP, that will be my next item, we do have rules in our, about what they're supposed to be doing, and they need to do them. I am a Vice President of Human Resources, I'm also a lawyer, and I have to handle these issues every single day. You don't follow the rules, we have to handle them. And this is our community, and we're one of the safest, which is why I'm 3,000 miles away from New York. And I'd just like us to be a little more vigilant on that issue. With regard to the RFP, I did note that it was issued in March of 2017. I don't know how you present the status to the members, how you present status updates about what's going on with that. You may not want to answer me on that right now. But as I was reading the RFP, I also noted that returning guests with valid guest passes do not need to have their driver's license verified again. One of the things that brought me here was visiting, and I happened to like showing my driver's license with that pass because I felt that the people in the community were more secure. People noted on that Facebook page that U-Hauls come in with no pass. People come in with no pass. They get notifications that people are here who live in other states that have come in. So I'm not sure how that pass thing works. An amendment on March 2nd, 2017 added the following order to the RFP, and it said, before issuing a pass or granting access, make sure that the gate arm is open and in an upright position, which didn't make sense to me, because before you issue a pass, I don't think the gate arm should be open unless there's a reason or concern that someone's going to drive through and break the gate arm. So that was another concern I had regarding the RFP. And I do understand, Phil, you had said that the prior board approved the no driver's license with pass, but that's possible that that's going to change with this board. So those are my statements. I don't know what your rules are in terms of response. I did hear you may not respond to me. You may take it under advisement. You could do whatever you want, but I'm here and I had to say it.
All right, thank you. I will make a couple comments. We get a lot of these complaints that, security's not working the way it should be working. So just briefly, we have a new security director, Jack Blanco. You're going to meet him very shortly. And he's been making changes and following up with members and trying to improve the processes and stop the bad behaviors that are happening. We also have a new security manager position open, which is going to be an internal POA position. And that person's job is basically going to be to police the police, to make sure that our security contractor is living up to the contract and their requirements and regulations and what we want them to do. And he's going to be able to basically make sure that we get what we want from our security contract. And third, as everyone knows, the security contract is out for RFP. And we're going to be giving you our decision very shortly on who we're choosing to award the contract to. So I hear you. You're not the only one that I hear this from. I get emails and from lots of members on all the things that go wrong. We've been working with security. We've been working with member services manager who works with security, and we've taken several steps and actions to try and correct these problems. And I would just ask for you to be patient. We are aware, and we're trying to make the changes that need to be done.
Well, we're hoping for broad-based and quick changes once we start implementing them. But we wanted to make sure that we had a great plan and great people and great systems and equipment involved. So you're going to see new people coming on, like the people we're going to hire to manage them, that they're going to be staff members. You're going to see new equipment that's going to help us slow down people on the road. We're hoping to get the RFID program extended out so we can use electronics to provide security instead of manpower. We kind of have a fairly comprehensive plan, and it should start snapping into place fairly quickly. So a couple of months, hopefully you can come up and say, geez, all these things you've done in the last 3 months have been wonderful. So we'll see you in 3 months.
All right. John Stelzner, track 3778, lot 009. Prepared statement from ACC.
Again, good evening. As you know, I am the chairperson of the Architectural Control Committee meeting, or the Control Committee. Due to some comments made at last month's board meeting, I have a prepared statement I'd like to read on behalf of the committee. Members of the committee sign a confidentiality agreement that they will not discuss privacy issues with another member, no matter how much a member yells at us. The board member also signs a confidentiality agreement, but they do have the opportunity to talk to the staff or the committee about any concerns. The committee is transparent. As a member of this association, you may attend the open session of our meeting to see how we make decisions about products or projects that your neighbor has submitted an application for, or you have submitted an application for, or just to see how we operate. There is nothing secret about what we do. The committee follows the CC&R's rules and regulations as stated in the Planning and Compliance section of the governing directives. We cannot approve CC&R violations, but you may notice that the board has such authority when they approve such items as a 6-foot fence at this meeting's consent agenda. If you would like to attend our meetings, call Planning and Compliance on Thursday morning after 9 a.m. to find out the approximate time after 12 noon that we will begin the open session. Sometimes, as a member, it seems to take longer than what you expect to remedy a situation. Weeds on a vacant lot do not get cleared the next day. Be advised that Planning and Compliance is working as quickly as they legally can. Projects not built according to plan will not be signed off. Concerning the permit discussed by a member last month, we agreed that the project was not according to plan, and that individual attended a meeting where he was able to speak and hear about what was going to be done. Destroying or taking another member's property is not right and is not the solution. Finally, I'd like to take this opportunity to discuss the committee. The committee is currently made up of 5 members. We currently have 1 opening that we are hoping to fill. It does involve spending some time on Tuesday or Wednesday at home preparing for the meeting, and then attending the meeting every Thursday from 7:30 a.m. until completion, which may be as late as 5 p.m. You do not have to be a contractor or an engineer or be familiar with any of the governing directives. Contact Planning and Compliance if you are interested. Thank you.
All right, thank you, John. I think we all know you guys have a tough job. Next we have Jack Wamsley, track 1340, lot 40.
Okay. A couple of months ago, I brought up a recommendation with reference to an emergency transfer golf cart to be used on the golf cart to transfer somebody that's had a heart attack or something, where the fire department can't get to them and the ambulance can't get to them, but we can get to them with this emergency cart. This is not a new idea. In fact, there's a picture. I think you can probably see this is an elaborate type cart, but we don't need that particular type of cart. However, it shows you what's available. I got together with Eric and I got together with the city manager and asked him if they mind if I go ahead and put a group together and get this thing started. And they said, fine, go ahead. And also I talked with Dale Weldy about it, and we had a meeting Friday, and I proposed a program to the group. And I think we have a really good group, very knowledgeable. We split the program up so that not one person would be stuck with having to try to come up with the answers. We have Gary Bradford. Gary's a retired chief from Long Beach. He's going to be working with the fire department. And also, I talked with a company that I got them to donate us drone pictures of every hole. Gary will be working with the fire department on that. We'll have there'll be a book like this, 18 holes. Somebody calls in on hole number 7. Well, say hole number 17. That's an easier one to explain. And they'll call into dispatch, and they have a man down on the tee. You'll be able to flip this book open, and you'll have this picture of the hole. You'll have the GPS response, and it'll go directly to the fire department. It's a good program, and it's not in place yet. The fire department is working with us on it. And the captain from 60s and Captain Roberts from 94 is the first in unit. I think that it'll be really beneficial. What we're trying to do is cut the time that the person can get from the accident or heart problem to the location where the fire department and the ambulance can take over. Perfect example is hole 17. If you call in, I got a man down, hole 17, you've got to relate this to the dispatcher that it's T460, which I'm just picking a number, that'll be the coordinates. That'll mean it's at the T. That means he would respond to the road and back of the T on 17. If he says G470, that means he's on the green. That means he's got to respond and come down by the maintenance yard. The unit that we're going to present and hopefully get money for will be able to transport this person to, for instance, on 17, they would go down with this cart, pick the man up, and they'll have two things. They'll have oxygen and they'll have a defibrillator. We don't want him to get involved in anything else. We don't want him to buy a planned doctor. So he will be transporting this person to the place where he can meet the fire department, which would be right up at the clubhouse. That's a perfect example. We have several holes that you can't get to with the fire department. You can't get to with the excuse me, the ambulance. Lost the word there. Gary's going to be working on that project. The other members that we have is the president of the men's club and the women's club, and they would be working on a 3x5 card made up with the response so that everybody will have this on their golf cart. And regardless of whether you come down and play only once a year, you can have one of these on your golf cart. It'll tell you exactly what to do in case you have a problem. And then we'll try and spend the time of educating, and this will be a real problem, but I think we can do it with all three members of all the clubs. We've got the women's club, the men's club, and the family club. And the president of all those clubs are working on that right today. I think the other thing that we have, Pat, our pro, has agreed to train all of his employees to operate this cart. And Larry Green from the council is going to train these members so that they know exactly what to do with the cart. They know how to run the cart. They know how to apply oxygen if needed, and they'll know how to work the defibrillator. At the present time, that is the four different projects that we have. My particular project, I'm working on the golf cart itself. I met with 3 different companies. I spent 3 hours today with a company. I'm trying to get the cost down. These things run anywhere from $18,000 to $20,000. So far, I've got it down to 15. I hope to do better. And what I'll do is, in our next meeting, we're going to have the cost of these cards. Hopefully, I'll have the cost of the golf cart. And Gary can let us know how he's doing with the fire department. The fire department is in this right up to the hilt. They're going to really help us on it. And I think the GPS response is going to help any member that's on our golf course. It's been mentioned that maybe we can use this process in other directions, in other locations. I don't disagree with that. I just think that we need to take one thing at a time. And so anyway, that's where we are. I think we're running over time here. But we'll be back. I'll get on the agenda next time, and I'll have information that everybody can see and work with.
All right, thank you, Jack. For those watching at home that weren't, watching last month, we had a member that had a heart attack on the golf course and passed away. So the golfers are trying to do something to try and make it easier for first response personnel to get to a place on the golf course that's unknown. So a lot of what you're doing sounds wonderful. I would only say that some of the things you sound like you're going to be doing might open us up to legal implications. So I think you need to, when you have your plan finalized, you need to submit it to the board and legal counsel and let legal go over it. Am I correct in this, Howard? And so that we can make sure that we're not opening ourselves up to any liability by basically acting as first responders or something like that. That might be a problem. So I love what you're doing. I'm just saying, don't try and implement until you've submitted the full plan to us and let us go over it.
We're not going to implement anything without the permission of the board. As far as the legal aspects of it, I've worked with LA County Fire Department for over 50 years, and part of my job was making sure that we've done the right thing, for instance, on movie sets and everything else. I'm not a beginner at doing this. So anyway, we certainly wouldn't do anything without the board, and I think Eric will attest to that. I've been in his office telling him what we're doing for about 10 times. He's probably getting tired of seeing me. But anyway, we really think that we have a good program, and our gain, or our goal, rather, I should say, is to end up with the best coverage of any golf course in Southern California, and I think we can do that.
All right, thank you, Jack. Next, we have a report of executive session actions. Lynn?
Yes, sir. Good evening. Yesterday's executive session on October 2nd began at 6:06 p.m. Items discussed on the agenda included 8 member action-related items. There was discussion on legal matters, 2 third-party contracts, and 1 personnel matter was discussed. The meeting concluded at 9:07 p.m. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lynn. Next, we have General Manager's report. Eric?
Thank you. Another thing I wanted to mention regarding the logo, but I failed to, was that another reason why we made this choice and kind of this branding decision was that we're also working on a new website that will launch in early 2018. And there'll be a press release about this, and the PowerPoint that you saw will probably be available on social media and also our website. Just want to go over some project highlights. These are all listed in the operations report, which is a usual report that, until further notice, you'll always find in the agendas and posted online. It's very informative, talks about all the projects, talks about the operations department, goes into great detail about the committees, and want to thank operations and Elaine and Cindy and Steve for doing a great job on this report. And I urge you to read it in its entirety, and I'll just go over some highlights. We have started the main gate project. Main gate signage and waterfalls, pretty obvious when you drive in. It's hard to miss, but that project's well underway, and we look forward to that being done before the end of the year. We recently completed LED lighting conversion at the pool for energy savings. We are also working on, is it Monday, the 9th, at the Country Club? This coming Monday, the golf course will be closed for overseeding, which it is every year, and we're taking advantage of that this year to do a complete overhaul of the bar area, which would be new flooring, new ceiling, new cabinetry at the bar and the hostess stand, new countertop at the bar, and tile flooring, and basically renovating anything and everything associated with the bar, the hostess stand, and kind of the entrance to the kitchen. And so when we reopen after the overseeding, you expect to see a whole new renovated bar there. Pickleball courts are complete, and we should be having a ribbon cutting. I don't know if we firmed the date of Harmony, but mid-month.
Tentatively, the 24th Tuesday. We had said the Wednesday, the 25th, or Tuesday, the 24th.
Okay, so pencil in October 24th for a ribbon cutting for pickleball if you're interested at 6 o'clock. And watch our internet for that. Rental docks, another project that's been a high priority for the POA in general because it's a revenue-producing item. So
come here. It's really the general manager's hand. He can send it off to FRC and have them take a look and bring it back. He can bring it to the board, and obviously if it goes over our spending limit, then it would have to come to us.
Well, I think it's a great idea. We've lost some boarders that have jumping horses because the physicality of the field is as important to a horse as the NFL field is to a player. So thanks for your support on that. I heard you voted for it, and I appreciate it.
Not really, I didn't vote for it, to be honest.
Well, you guided it.
I'm explaining. As a board member in those committees, we don't get to vote. So if I had voted for it, I'd have been breaking the rules. So
Guided it. You were for it, and that's a good thing. Good for the community. We need to maintain our amenities. It's the reason that they appointed the three of us for this particular term. We told the property owners we would do all we could to cut the costs and improve the facilities. It's not an easy job, but we are doing it. There are certain levels of which I can just say we have created a greater protection of the spending of your funds in the last 4 months than we have in prior boards. No offense, prior boards, but our focus is to cut spending where we can and get a better deal for the same service. So thank you for giving us the opportunity, all of us, to work together and work for the community.
All right, thank you, Phil. For myself, Randy kind of stole my thunder a little bit. My first comment I had written down is that I just want to say that my thoughts and prayers are going out to the people of Las Vegas. I mean, it was just a horrific thing that happened. I'm sure you've all heard about it, and we've had several members posting on Facebook that were actually there at the concert, that were helping to get people out of there, that were holding pressure bandages over people that had been shot and trying to get them out of there. I mean, it was just a horrific thing, and please, everybody, say a little prayer for the people of Vegas. Next is update on Pump Track, and Eric, feel free to jump in here with me if I'm saying this wrong. I think, as you all know, we're trying to do the kids Pump Track for the community. We've been running through two insurance hurdles. The insurance companies are basically telling us if we're going to build a pump track, we have to fence it, and we have to staff it with somebody that makes sure that waivers are signed and helmets are worn and things to that effect. We've been looking at other insurance companies, trying to find out if these are rules that we'd have to adhere to no matter who we talk to. The info I received from Eric was that we can't get anybody else that's saying any different than that. Is that correct, Eric? So it makes it more difficult for us to do, because now it's not just a capital expenditure, it becomes an ongoing cost to do something like that, so it would have to be staffed. But your board is talking about how we might staff it so that we can have it happen for the kids. You know, during weekdays, maybe it only needs to be staffed 3 hours a day, to where, you open up from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. for the kids to be able to go down there and ride their bikes and skateboards and whatever on those tracks after school. Obviously, we'd want to have it open for 8 hours on the weekends. Summers would change. Maybe it need to be staffed more in the summer than it is in the winter when kids are actually on vacation. I don't know if we still have kids that get full summers off, or if they're on a rotating basis. I haven't had kids that young in a while, so maybe somebody could tell me about it. But we're not we're not giving up on it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Your board understands the level of support the community is giving to the pump track, and we're trying to look at these options. If you have any comments or suggestions that you want to send to us, please feel free to do so. You can email the entire board at board@canyonlakepoa.com. Next, I just want to reiterate that we will be clearing the permanent guest list to eliminate a bunch of security issues that we're having, which means you're going to have to re-sign up for your guests, and when you re-sign up, we'll be asking you to put down the days of the week that your guests are going to come, especially for contractors. This is where we're getting a lot of the problems. Contractors are just called in blanket access, and then they start using our amenities on the weekends and things that you're not aware of. You may not even be aware that your contractor is sitting in Indian Beach fishing and drinking beer because you called them in to, do your gardening in the backyard, mow your lawn. So what we're hoping is that when we clear this list and we start reinstating it, you're going to fill in days of the week where, special contract type employees are supposed to come. So if your gardener comes on Wednesdays, you'd be calling him in for Wednesdays, on the permanent guest list, not 7 days a week on the permanent guest list. Same for maids or service personnel of any kind that are coming to your house. We're trying to make sure that the people that are paying for the amenities are the ones that are able to enjoy the amenities, and the people that aren't supposed to be using our amenities aren't abusing the fact that members are giving them too good of an access. So that's coming. Corey, I don't know if we've had notification starting to go out on when we might clear the permanent guest list. Is that something that's happened yet or not?
No notification yet, but our target date is January 15th.
Okay, so hopefully the POA is going to be bombarding you with this information between now and January 15th so that you can get ready for it. I know Eric's trying to work on a way that maybe you could re-sign up for the permanent guests that you want through email or something like that, so that we don't create huge lines of the POA of people having to come in to re-sign up their permanent guests. We're trying to figure ways to make it easy for you so we can do the right thing and make it easier for you to get your regular guests back in. Next that I wanted to talk about is we had a member come in to speak to the board last night about her child trying to access the gates. And I guess we've kind of run into something that we haven't had before. We didn't used to have a pedestrian gate at the main gate that locked people out. We now do. And I guess we've always had the situation of that we don't give POA ID cards to children under 14 because you have to be 14 to use the pool without adult supervision. And so that was kind of always our rule, is that when you're 14, your child can have a POA ID card, and that way anybody that has a POA ID card, we know they're old enough to use the pool. Unfortunately, with the addition of the pedestrian gate at Main Gate, what we found out last night is that some people's children are basically being locked out of the community, and they're having a hard time getting in for various reasons. If you have a POA card, you can scan it, and that pedestrian gate opens for you, and you can get right in. So I just wanted to let everyone know that after hearing from this lady last night, the board and staff are taking steps to make sure that anyone's child, regardless of age, can get a POA card and get access into the main gate, so that we're not locking anyone's kids out of the community and causing problems for them. We'll take the steps that are needed to make sure that we are able to communicate to pool personnel, children that are not old enough to be there without adult supervision. We're working on that as part of the solution as well. But I just wanted to let you know that we're now aware of it. We're working to take care of it. Obviously, we don't want to lock anyone's children out of this community that live here, that are supposed to be able to get into the gates. That's all I have for tonight. Next up, we have architectural appeals. As usual, we'll take a 10-minute break so that anybody that's not here for architectural appeals has the opportunity to take off, and we'll reconvene in about 10 minutes. Thank you, everyone. All right, everybody. Let's come back to order. All right, architectural appeals. The first person, Brian Hawkins, isn't here, but I believe maybe a solution's been worked out. John, did you want to comment on this?
Staff has recommended we pull this item. I believe it's already been worked out with ACC.
Correct. I would just like to make a comment first. Before a board meeting, I spent time looking over the appeals, and this particular individual had used words of an item that we would not approve, and there was not a picture included. So unfortunately, we rejected it, and the member is appealing that. I was looking through the package, and I saw that to support his appeal, he provided a sample of the material, and the material is an item that we can approve. So I called the member up and asked him if it was okay if we could cancel this, if he would approve of us canceling this meeting or his appeal, and then he'll meet, we're going to look again at his application on Thursday in 2 days, and I can't personally approve it because it's a Democratic committee, and so we'll look at that again, and now that we have a picture, we actually know what he wants. One of the problems that comes up on appeals is that members, they'll get a rejection letter because we need something, or it's a material, or it's just not allowed. And by law, when they send out that letter to the member saying that their item was rejected, there's a letter in, there's a form in there to be filled out that you can appeal to the board. I would hope that members know that they should read that through as to why it's rejected, because sometimes it's just so easy to provide that information to us. For example, a color. You could say a particular color name, and we're not familiar with that, or it might be a color, for example, green, that we do approve some greens, but not bright green or certain dark greens. But that just is an example. It's unfortunate that we have to provide, request a permit when we're getting our house painted. It seems so silly to me, but being on the committee, it all started because a member changed his color drastically on his home. So just go with the program is the best thing I can say. It's so easy to get a permit, and I think Director Harris stated that about 90%, I think, of the permits are free. I think it's actually a lot higher. You don't get into the having to pay for a permit unless you're building a new home or putting on an addition. So submit an application. It's easy and it's quick. And when you get a rejection, just see what it actually is and talk to planning and compliance. They understand and they know what we need. So that's my comment. Let's get on to the next.
All right, so I'm going to do I need a motion, Howard, or can I just say that we're pulling this from the agenda for tonight?
Just make a motion to table it.
So I'll make a motion that we table this item, and the member can come back next month if he's not able to work it out with ACC.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I'm in favor. Motion carried.
I'd also kind of like to make comment to the things that Mike as well as our ACC are talking about. There's an old saying that says it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission. That statement is usually true, but it actually does not apply to the ACC. We've had members that have built things without a permit, and we've had to tell them they have to take it all down and redo it because it was against a CCNR or a rule or something that we just can't allow and set a precedent like that. So it can be very expensive for members watching at home if you ask for forgiveness instead of permission. It's very easy to get the permits, and then you know that you're following the outlined rules, and there won't be any problems with your project or your build. So do please come down and get the permit before you start your work. Next, we have Tony Alberoni. Are you going to speak on behalf of this? Tony, come on up, and Cheryl, give us the rundown on this.
Okay, so if we could go directly to the one and only slide I think we really need to do, and I I'm hoping that I put it in the packet, and if not, then I'm going to pass this on to the board. Lynn, do you know if this one's in there? Okay, so this is in general what you're looking to do, correct? 170, okay, there it is up there. And so before we go into that, the reason why this was rejected by the committee is there's actually two items. PC 4.3D, which is the front of the property restrictions, and also it's a CCNR, and his CCNR basically track is 3863, Section 7. And so what we're looking at is fences and walls, including gates, are not allowed to traverse the front yard or the community setback. And in the CCNRs, it basically states, no part of any fence or wall shall be constructed or placed within that front yard. So what that front yard means is not the community setback. So let's say your community setback is 12 feet, that it's the next additional 20 feet that we're talking about from the back of your community setback to the garage. That would be the 20-foot front yard setback. And so with all of that said, what Mr. Alberoni was trying to do is he's not sure which one I think it is, whether it's a fire pit or a water feature. I want to point out right now that a water feature by itself can be permitted by the committee. The only thing that we're talking about right now is the actual sitting wall. Unfortunately, the sitting wall is basically considered a structure, and it's also like a fence or a wall. So that's what's not allowed in there. However, we do allow the water features in the front yard setback. The fire pit, we did have one other fire pit that the board approved, I want to say last year around November, but it was also a fire pit that was not stationary, it was able to roll around. But the people who had approved by the board had a little area in their front yard as a courtyard area that they wanted to have a fire pit for. It's not something we normally do. I'm not sure if there's any city things that they would need to look for, but that was something that if you wanted to do the fire pit, you would want to go to the city just to make sure. I'm not sure if there is, but John was just telling me that we quite possibly could do that. Knowing this, it may not be worth it to you if you can't get the sitting wall. So, but the reason why the committee could not permit it is because it is against the CCNRs. So therefore, we'll go ahead and let Mr. Alberoni talk.
I guess the city wall is a big part of it. I guess I consider doing something else. Oh, you can't hear me. Sorry. I guess I consider doing something else if it's not approved.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
So what you'd like to do is put this patio area in, which is permittable.
Yes.
But it's just a sitting wall because it's basically states in the CCNRs that no structures, and that being like a garden wall, to be built in the front setback. However, you can have retaining walls, but unfortunately your property is flat, or pretty much flat, so that is why the committee rejected it. If you would like to put in a patio, then that is an approvable item. Also, we would need to know whether it is going to be a fountain or water feature. That is approvable. However,
we've gone away from the water feature.
Okay. So you do want a...
I did want to put a fire pit there, yeah.
We like to approve permits. So you could have that, and you could bring chairs out and have, lawn furniture in your front yard. There's nothing against that.
I could put privacy plants there. I could put bushes there to kind of give me that border that I'm looking for.
You can do that?
I'd rather have the wall if it's not. Are you guys saying it's not approved? I've never gone through this process yet. No.
No. We're the committee, or I should say, I'm representing the committee.
Uh-huh.
So the committee is basically concern with not allowing CCNR violations. It's something that cannot be approved at our level.
Okay.
So the board, you have an opportunity now to speak to the board and
Okay.
ask for approval of a CCNR violation. And
Okay.
that's what you're doing.
Okay.
So
Yes.
This picture that I'm looking at here,
Yes, sir.
this is a rendering of something, but this isn't exactly what you're doing at your house, right? I mean, the picture doesn't depict what's happening at your house. Based on what I'm seeing from drawings versus this, it looks like you want this on the corner in the front yard of your house.
Yes.
And this looks like it's in somebody's backyard,
It's an example.
the picture.
This is an example.
Yeah, so
On the back side of that page, there's some photographs.
Oh, the photograph is just something I found on the internet. I like the way it looks. It's just what I was going for.
So looking at your house, you live on the corner of Outrigger and Santa Maria.
Yes, sir.
Your goal is to put this fire pit in basically
On the corner.
the center of the radius of the corner.
Yes.
And then the wall outside of that,
Yes,
so
sir.
that it would be all facing back towards your house, and the wall is now out basically towards the corner.
Yes.
Okay.
Believe it or not, we even felt like it offers us some protection, actually, because being on that corner with cars going by, my living room is actually on that corner, so that was really like our original idea, like we're going to put some big trees here or something. I'm like, maybe we could put, a small wall. I would feel better. I've got kids playing on that corner all the time. That was one of my hopes.
What I would like to state that if the board elects to go ahead and approve, it would have to be done with, I would think, a variance. And this is not the recorded variance that we do. It would actually have to be done with a real variance. It's the one where you come out where we have to notify the public, the neighboring 300 feet around them. And so that's just a suggestion to the board if this is something that you are thinking about approving.
How tall of a wall are you talking about and how long?
2.5 feet. The length, I believe, is 13 to 16 feet.
Well, it's not built yet. Can't it be built as long as it's not outside of the community setback within the boundaries allowed? Isn't that, are you saying that there's another rule that would prevent him from building it at all? My understanding of this is that what he wants to build is going to go out beyond the community setback where he's not allowed to have it. If he builds it within, so he's not going into the community setback within his own boundaries, is that?
No, it's not the community setback. That's what I was trying to explain. It's after the community setback in the front yard setback, which is at 20 feet after the end of your community setback to the garage. So everybody has 20 feet of their property that's, in front of their garage. And before that is the community. So we're talking about the front yard setback. That's the CCNR for that one, is that you can't have anything traversing or anything like a wall or a structure in that area.
Inside that 20 feet, within 20 feet of your garage and your house and your...
Generally from the front of your house to this curb.
Yeah, is it from the house or from the garage?
Well, see, that's the thing. Excuse me, can I interrupt? Yeah, it's hard to tell. You guys have that picture. I did the best I could, but it's really hard to understand that my house is actually facing the other street. What we're talking about is actually what I consider my side yard. I do believe that whatever rules made it into my front yard, and I realized this. Originally I wanted to put a fence. You can see that whole property line. I wanted to put a fence and have a yard for my dogs and my kids to keep them in. And I realize it's just not allowed. So, but unless you're there, you can't. It's kind of hard to understand that. I think you're looking at it, thinking that is the front of the house, but it is the side of my house. The front of my house is actually on Santa Maria.
Yeah, you've got a Santa Maria address. Your front door's on Santa Maria. Your
Yes, sir.
garage and driveway are on Outrigger coming in the.
My driveway and my garage is on Santa Maria. My front door, my garage, my driveway is all on Santa Maria.
Mm-hmm. What's on the Outrigger side?
Well, I did pour that concrete. That was approved. I did put that driveway you could see there on the side.
Yeah, that's why I'm just looking at an aerial. So
yeah, so it's probably hard to understand just looking at it that way. I mean,
now I'm going to open up a can of worms. I'm not even sure if you've addressed this or not, but that looks like on the corner where you're talking about putting this fire pit.
Yes.
That's now landscape.
I haven't touched it.
Well, I mean, is it not covered over with cement?
No, sir.
It's dirt, bark, something.
Yes.
But now you're going to cover it over and make it covered with cement.
Some of it.
So I'm not sure if you're going to meet the 33%.
We'll be well below.
You already
Yes,
have
sir.
enough?
Yes, sir.
You measured it out? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And that's, just looking at it, it just looks like you got a lot of cement, and that just looks like it's the only area that still isn't.
I'm well below 50% already, still. I'm probably have 30% concrete, 80%, 20, 30%.
You can't do this in the backyard? That's not possible?
That's a whole nother, my backyard is a whole different project. I mean, this is just what we're trying to do on that side. It's just an idea that we had.
If you look at the rendering for his plot plan, he doesn't have much of
There's not much of a backyard.
backyard. And because this is a corner lot, our rules basically state, in order for you to determine what the front yard is, it's the shortest end that abuts the street. So that's the reason that abuts the street that's next to it. So that's how we determine where the actual front yard
So
is.
my backyard is between
There you
Dale. My backyard is next to that house. So I really don't have a backyard.
That's actually,
And it would be a grounds for a variance because it's a
Correct.
unique lot.
I do not have that backyard, and so that's what I'm saying.
Here's the one with the
Yes,
the blue one.
yes,
That's your house.
yes.
And so your backyard goes
To the left.
to the left of that red house. So that's your backyard.
That's my backyard, which is about 10 feet, if I'm,
So you try to live in the front. I get the whole.
yeah.
As you say, Howard, there's essentially a rule that says if you deprive basic use of
Well, yeah, the variance would be that if he's, if there's other similarly situated lots, not corner lots, but that have the ability to put something like this in, and he can't do it because he's on a unique thing, a corner lot, then you certainly have the grounds for, as Cheryl was correct, a recorded type of variance. And if you do want to do that, I think you should go through that process and just bring it back and notify everybody and see if you get objections and do it if you're going to go that route. If you're not going to, then you don't have to.
With the lot itself, if you look at normal corner lots, they're a lot larger than this particular lot is. So what council was talking about is that it would deem a justification because it's kind of like a topography issue, which is something that we can do and the committee is able to. I would have to look at it even more. One of the things that what I was suggesting is that if we do the actual variance, not the recorded variance, but the variance, and notify the neighbors that are around him, we're doing our part on notifying the public. And that's something that we have to do if we're going to go against a CC&R. Now, the justification portion, I can work with Mr. Alberoy and see if we can come up with some sort of justification. If that's the case, then the committee can approve it.
But the essential thing is saying that he's deprived of something most people normally can have because of the shape or the topography of his lot. And because he's deprived of the ability to have this amenity, our ability to be flexible is much larger than it's typically.
You'd make a finding of fact that he's deprived of that right, and that would be one of the findings of fact.
I feel I need.
Flexibility to look at your issue in a more generous way.
I feel that I need to clarify a statement that was made. It does not matter where your garage is, where your front door is. The thing is that the CC&R state that the front of your property is the CC&Rs state that the front of the property is on a corner lot is the smallest width. And on this particular lot, that is on Outrigger. The reason why we allowed him to pour the concrete there is because originally he met the 1/3 landscaping requirement, but that is for RV or boat parking. And his backyard is actually, if you look from Outrigger and look up, it actually is straight back from that. A rear yard would be in the rear of the house on that lot. The builder decided to build it the way they did, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but it is on this diagram, on this plot plan, it is at the top of the plot plan is where his rear yard is. He has also concreted that. You can concrete your rear yard, there's no problem on doing that. So, I just want to clarify that the setbacks are established and you can get a variance, but the front yard is determined by that 20-foot setback and the CC&Rs that go with the corner lot. In this particular lot, the 20-foot setback, which you cannot build a structure in, is off of outrigger. On the side, it's only a 10-foot setback for a corner lot. So the front door of your house actually only has a 10-foot setback, and that's from the property line. So the 20-foot is a setback from the front property line, which is on outrigger. It runs basically, it parallels the property line 20 feet back, and usually a garage is usually out there, but sometimes the whole house is set at that 20-foot setback. So in this particular case, you're on a corner. Part of that is in that front 20-foot setback measured from the front property line.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
I think really more or less what I'm asking for is what can I do? If I can do something similar, if I had to move it over and that would make it approved. I don't want it to be unapproved just because of the way I drew it up. It's an amenity that we want at our house if we can. If I need to come up with something new, I can.
So, Mr. Aberoni, since you haven't built this already, which is what we usually run into here, is, something's already built and they're trying to get us to okay it after the fact. And it sounds like you're very cooperative. I mean, would it be helpful, Cheryl and John, if we just let him kind of table this and let him come back and meet with you and see if there's something that you guys can work out without us intervening at this point? It sounds like you guys can work this out to me.
It's workable. You say that you're willing to move it. Have you thought about moving it to the side, which is basically the front of your house? You could have, for example, I don't know exactly if that's landscaping, just on the top, if you look straight up from that straight north, is that concrete in place or is that landscaping?
I'm not sure where. I'm not sure where you were.
Here's what I suggest. I think that what was being said here is that maybe if you can come back to the ACC committee or even come back to staff first and let's see what we can come up with and then have a meeting with the committee again. And then if you still want to go with what your original is, then there is the opportunity of having that variance done. Or if you want to change it, then it's that opportunity to change it with the committee.
And that would allow you also to do a proper variance if you needed to do one. So maybe that is a good idea to, as Paul was saying, to make a motion to table it.
Yeah, and if we table it, it means you can come back. It doesn't mean you're giving up your rights. It just means we're not going to decide right now.
Correct.
It gives you the opportunity to work it out with them, or if you decide that this is the way it has to be, it gives them the opportunity to file notice to the public so that when you come back, she can say nobody objected, blah, blah, blah. So I think it sounds like we should just table this and let you guys go back and look this over again. Would that be acceptable to you, Mr. Aberoni?
Yeah, whatever you guys say. If that's what you suggest, that's what I'll do. Okay, yes. Yeah,
hopefully you won't have to come back and sit through another whole board meeting to talk about this.
Actually, I just walked in
right
before you called me.
All right, then I make a motion that we table this and allow Mr. Aberoni and the ACC the opportunity to see if they can work this out.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
5 in favor, motion carried.
I think that's the end of our day, isn't it?
It is. I make a motion that we adjourn.
Yep.
What time? Adjourn at 9:09.
Aye.
Second? Are you seconding?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
I got it reversed, sorry.